Have you ever been watching a movie and you see the actor deliver their lines just really awkwardly? Or maybe as they're delivering their lines, their facial expressions do not match the tone of the scene, and it completely just takes you out of the moment. Let me give you an example from the golden ages of entertainment, also known as the early 2000s.
Your dad is gay.
The shocked expression she's giving us comes off as generic and not very authentic. It doesn't match the gravity of the information she's being told. Character artists, especially when they're still learning, fall into the same issue when they're in the process of capturing those feelings within their own drawings or digital painting. I completely understand why it might seem really intimidating to capture these really authentic emotions. However, I am here today to share with you my art tutorial. I'm going to show you how I've successfully drawn these expressions. If you want to draw these really convincing emotions, you have to first understand how the human face works and how it moves in accordance to the way someone feels. And that is what I will be diving into today, so let's get right into it. I took 2 photos of myself to best help understand how faces work within this context. Here we have a photo of me being sad and then me being happy. Pay close attention to the way the muscles are positioned. When someone is expressing sorrow, their eyebrows pull together and their mouths go slack. That's where you hear the expression, "Why the long face?" because your mouth is literally sloping downwards. When you're happy and smiling, the muscles in your face are lifted up, emphasizing the roundness of one's cheeks. There's a crinkle in the eyes that comes from those cheeks being pushed up, so a lot of character art will emphasize that shape. The lower lid of the eye seems fuller, giving a less wide-eyed look. Take pictures of your own facial expressions and study from those. This is a great exercise for understanding how the face moves, and even helps indicate body language. These are just 2 examples that demonstrate what I mean. Next, I'll be drawing from my imagination instead of a photo reference. I am very excited about sharing these sketches. This is JD, or Jason Dean, from Heathers. If you don't know the Heathers musical or movie, that's fine. You don't need to know that info for this tutorial. I chose JD because he's a character that expresses a good range of emotions, and he's just generally fun to draw. For these sketches, I've purposefully made the expressions lacking, and for this lesson, I'll be drawing over them to show how to really enhance the storytelling. These expressions are good, but watch and learn how I can strive to make them even more dynamic. So our first expression is going to be disgust, and I like this one because we as artists have a lot to learn from it. Most beginner artists shy away from really pulling the muscles in the face for this expression because they're afraid their characters won't look pretty. When someone is disgusted, they have this sneer on their face, coupled with a wrinkled nose and a raised upper lip. It's inherently not pretty, and that's fine. Don't be afraid to draw those lines on the face. It's okay if it doesn't look pretty, like I said. Your purpose as a storyteller is to convey emotions. That should be your priority. The expression here is a bit flat. You can tell he's unamused, but not necessarily disgusted. So I'm exaggerating his eyebrows. One is arched slightly higher in disbelief. As a general rule of thumb, breaking up symmetry can add a lot of visual interest. One eye is squinting slightly, like he's trying to make something out or process something. There should be wrinkles between his brows because his brow is furrowed and they're pressed together. Then we finally have his mouth sloping a bit downward, partly open. When someone is sneering in disgust, you get this line connecting from the corner of the nose to the corner of the mouth. Don't hesitate to make this line prominent. This is really going to bring it home. A lot of people don't find this look pretty, but again, it's not about being pretty. Instead, take pride in the fact that our faces have that kind of range. Next up, we have a smug facial expression. When someone is feeling smug, they usually have this crooked smile. So first, let's arch his eyebrows some more and make one eye a little bit more narrow than the other. Right now, JD's smile is very tame. It looks like he's just having a conversation with someone. But if you want to add drama to the scene, again, exaggerate those features. So what I'll do is push it up some more and spread that smile wider across his face, like he knows something you don't know and he's proud of it. Chose not to give him an open mouth grin because he's looking a little bit too much like an anime villain, so just a tight-lipped grin should suffice. See how his mouth is curved upwards at one angle? Doing this almost makes it seem sinister, which works for this character. It's effective and it comes across as less friendly and more self-serving and ultimately kind of unsettling. It's a really fun expression for your villain characters. Drawing angry expressions can be challenging because the face contorts so wildly. It's really easy if you're a beginner to shy away from that. So this guy is angry, but I'm going to make him even more unhinged, which I'm sure you love to see. I'm going to make him more bothered. So when someone is shouting, their jaw unhinges, so you can even take the lasso tool and then the transform tool to unhinge and lower the character's jaw and stretch it out a bit. Add some light shading, if you like, to indicate the muscles of the jaw dropping. Additionally, I've went in and made his brows more drastically furrowed and his eyes narrowed. When you read a book and there's that description about a character's eyes narrowing, try and think of that. Implement that into your work, or at least that's what I do. There's that line again that's connected to the corner of the mouth and the nose, and that's especially vivid when someone is screaming or just feeling really nasty. The pupils do dilate during an adrenaline rush or a release of intense energy, so instead of being wide-eyed, his pupils have now dilated and became smaller. Okay, buckle up for this one, because I know people love sad boys. Like I mentioned earlier, a sad expression will have a drooping mouth and raised eyebrows, but you can do so much more. Here, I'll raise his eyebrows up even higher on his forehead, then place some wrinkles on his forehead too to indicate that movement. If a person is about to cry, their eyelids flutter, especially the lower one, because we can feel the tears start to form. Again, the upper and lower eyelids can start to close a little bit. If someone is actively crying, it's normal for them to shut their eyes. So if you want to depict someone trying to fight back those tears, carefully draw their jawline so it's clenched. It should look like someone is clenching their jaws, letting their mouth fall into a very tight line. I couldn't help myself, I had to add this expression. We're doing a very evil grin. This one is so much fun. You don't even have to limit yourself to just using it for villain characters. Just have fun. I do it when I feel like it. So if you want to make someone look very unhinged and possibly murderous, I would really recommend all of the other techniques I've showed you thus far. Really furrowing the brows, making that smile stretch far across the face. And then if you want to make the pupils uneven, I've noticed that that's a really good technique. So maybe have one normal sized and one slightly smaller and dilated. The unevenness is going to make somebody appear like things are not going very well for them at the moment. Also, lines under the eyes indicate that there's maybe stress behind their actions, which also gives you the impression that they're, struggling. Ooh. So here's some crucial information that you should know if you want to really grow as a character artist. Obviously, you should always be drawing, and by doing that, you will see results over time. However, it can be beneficial to open your mind and take time to study from artists who have mastered these techniques. When I was a student at art school, I looked to Disney and DreamWorks animators when I was stumped. Many of these animators apply the principle known as squash and stretch to their work. Squash and stretch is the principle of applying contrasting change of shape from a squash pose to a stretch pose, or vice versa, to give a feeling of fleshiness, flexibility, and life in animation. Whether or not you like Disney, many of that studio's artists apply this method, and it does absolutely change a character or an object from looking kind of flat to suddenly brimming with life. If you take a look at some concept art, you'll find S&S used to depict a character's emotions. I'd highly recommend checking out concept art books for animated films so you can really observe the way you can play with the push and pull of people's facial muscles. Glenn Keane is a Disney animator who's been in the business for, oh my god, for like all of my childhood basically. He's worked on The Little Mermaid. I'm pretty sure he did some work for Tangled, which is one of my favorite movies. Anyways, I would highly again recommend checking out his work. It's just so inspiring. Hi, wardrobe change, because the last few bits of footage that I recorded somehow disappeared. I guess I deleted them on accident. So that's really cool. I'm really excited about that. I did have to re-record this segment of my video. It happens, whatever. Moving on, I really hope that you've enjoyed my tutorial. I'm really excited about sharing this information with people. Probably one of the biggest motivators behind my decision to become an artist, especially a character artist, is because I grew up with all of these Disney movies and DreamWorks movies that really stuck with me and made such a big impact. And then at some point, I guess I just decided, I want to do that. I want to be an artist and draw really cool expressions and really dramatic scenes, and I want to make people feel things. If you do choose to implement the knowledge that I've given you today via this tutorial into your own practices, well then that makes me really excited. I really hope people get something from this. As usual, find me on Instagram, which I'm not terribly active on these days, but I'll post a lot of stories of like little bunny rabbits or dogs. Really, I just use Instagram to look at reels of animals at this point. If you're a beginner artist and you're looking for advice, really the best way to reach out to me is just leaving a comment here on YouTube, subscribing to my channel, liking my content. That would really mean a lot to me. If you just want to pop in and say hi and ask for some advice on Instagram, I go by the name Sat Molly. I'm also on Patreon and TikTok, and I also use the same name for those platforms. Thank you so much for watching this video. Best of luck to you, and keep drawing.